and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller for the General Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Okay. Do we have any apologies, substitution or declarations of interest?
No apologies for absence have been indicated. Can we now move to a roll call? Can the following members please indicate if they are present at the meeting either in person or remotely? Councillor Clockerty?
In person.
Councillor Crowther? Councillor Crowther? Councillor Curley?
Present remotely.
Councillor Halier?
Present remotely.
Councillor Law?
Present remotely.
Councillor Maguire?
Present.
Councillor McCormick?
Present remotely.
Councillor McVeigh?
Present remotely.
Councillor Nelson?
In chamber.
Councillor Reynolds?
Present remotely.
Councillor Wilson?
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Crowther?
Present remotely.
Can we turn that sound?
Yes, I'm just going to.
Can you hear me? I'm present remotely.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest?
More than take those, you know.
Okay. So we'll now move on to item number 2, the external audit action plans. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So this paper provides an update on external audit actions that are in progress. So there's 3 actions in the report, of which one is past the original agreed deadline, and that relates to a new local development plan. The other 2 relate to equality group involvement in the development of the next council plan and saving plans and approach to closing the budget gap. And the target dates for these are April 27 and December 26. In terms of the recommendation, the committee is asked to note the progress in relation to the implementation of the external audit actions. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Any questions from members? Yes, sir.
It's just really on the local development plan. Obviously, with the issues with I can see the chief executive smiling. With obviously issues with the local development plan for a few years, I would say. Are we confident that we'll meet the revised deadline?
You Chair. As Councillor Wilson has regularly asked me this question in respect to the local development plan, the Council is using best endeavours to achieve the formation of this local development plan. And you will appreciate that we are not the only players in this arena. We are subject to support from both the Scottish Government and the Reporters Unit. And it's safe to say that across Scotland there is a large number of local authorities who have not been able to achieve their local development plan within the timescales set out in their own council plans. And that's simply because we have a new system under NPA4. The Reporters Units are providing far more scrutiny than anticipated. They're asking for lots of questions. But I can give members reassurance that A, we continue to provide as much focus in achieving a local development plan as early as possible. But not having a local development plan is not hindering us in attracting economic stimulus in the housing market as an undercloud.
Thank you, Chief Executive.
Okay. Any further questions?
Chair, could I just add that in my role with the Glasgow City Region Spatial Planning Committee, it's also been made quite clear that there's direct link from the government straight through to the councils and the LDP, which bears out what you're saying, Chief Executive, that there is, I wouldn't say there's interference, but it's a little more complicated. Thank you.
So if there's no further questions, we're happy to note the progress of the report.
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed.
Now move on to item number 3, the review of local code of governance and internal annual governance statement 25-26. So,
Thank you, Chair. So the annual governance statement has been included in the 25-26 draft accounts, which we'll come on to shortly. And this will be subject to external audit as part of the audit of the accounts. It's been prepared using revised guidance to guide formats. The changes in the formats from the prior year to align to the new guidance means it now includes an executive summary and also a forward-looking statement. The overall conclusion is that the governance arrangements in place are fit for purpose. Actions in support of governance improvements have been identified and are included in the statement, and it also includes actions to be taken forward in 25-26 and an update on actions that were included in the prior year 24-25 statements. The conclusions in the statement are supported by the work of internal and external audits, external inspectorates, and the self-assessment checklists that have been completed for each service against the local code of governance. In terms of recommendations, the committee is asked to note the outcome of the self-evaluation exercise, considering how the council's meeting the agreed local code of governance, together with the issues identified and improvement actions, and also to consider the detail of the annual governance statement and approve the actions identified by management to improve the internal control environment. You have to take any questions through yourself, Chair.
thank you, John. Any questions from members? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Gillian, I don't know if this is one for you or Mr. Fox. If I go to big page 9 and proposals 4.2, the annual self-evaluation review 25-26 carried out presented by the current practice is mainly compliant. Could you elaborate on the word mainly, please?
Thank you. So the word mainly is just to provide assurance that overall the council is generally compliant. There are some areas identified for improvement. These are minor of nature, so there's no major or significant items included, and that's why it's concluded as being mainly compliant.
Thank you, Gillian.
Okay. Any further questions from members? Okay. Is everyone happy to note the outcome?
Agreed.
Consider the
Agreed.
detail of the annual governance statement. Yes.
Agreed.
We move on now to item number 4, which is the unaudited annual accounts for the year ending 31st of March 26. David.
Thank you, Convener. So members will have in their pack the draft accounts for the year 2025-26, which are due under the 2014 regulations for submission to the council's external auditors by the 30th of June, was today. So this is us meeting our regulatory compliance. If members will bear with me, I have a presentation that has been prepared on the main points of the annual accounts. If I can get technology to work, I'll share that on screen. Yeah, technology works. Okay, so as I said, this is the unaudited annual accounts for the financial year 2025-26. So the annual account provides a statutory record which complies with the 2014 local government accounting regulations and IFRS. It demonstrates how resources have been applied and where liabilities have been incurred. and seeks to demonstrate good governance and stewardship over the public purse. So what we'll look at today, we've got the key governance and financial statements, highlights from the accounts, challenges and risks that have been identified, and the next steps in the public inspection and audit process. So firstly, if we look at the management commentary, so the management commentary provides information on the council, its main objectives and strategies, and the principal risks that the council faces, as well as providing commentary on how the council has used its resources to achieve its desired outcomes in line with objectives and strategies. It's essentially an annual report and explains the work of the council, looks back over the performance, both financial and non-financial for the year, and mirrors a lot of what members may be familiar with in the private sector, what's produced by PLCs and major companies, and is as required to disclose under the Companies Act, but reinterpreted for local authorities. Within the governance statements, we've obviously just heard from Gillian on the annual governance statement. So the annual governance statement looks at the framework and control system and reports on the developments and future actions. Pages 21 to 27 of the accounts of the remuneration report. The main changes in this are the inclusion of the Inverclyde Leisure Chief Executive, as the Inverclyde Leisure is now classed as a subsidiary of the council. Is a regular requirement that the chief officer there is included within the council's remuneration report. The key financial statements are as laid out there on the slide. So the expenditure and funding analysis provides a note and an explanation of the main accounting adjustments between the management accounts, which have been presented to members throughout the year, and the annual accounts before you today, noting the regulatory requirements for different accounting adjustments and excluding the movements on reserves. So it doesn't directly reflect the budget monitoring that's being produced, but provides a good bridge between the two. The comprehensive income and expenditure statement follows IFRS reporting requirements and includes accounting entries which are later removed to ensure that there's no impact to the local authority for council tax or rent setting purposes. This includes depreciation charges for assets, the impact of asset revaluations, adjustments for employee benefits earned but not yet paid, and differences between our employers' contributions to the pension fund and the annual cost of pension benefits as determined by the scheme's actuary. The balance sheet on page 33 provides a statement of the assets and liabilities of the council, and primarily at the bottom it highlights the usable and unusable reserves. So the unusable reserves, they represent the unrealised gains and losses on the valuation of assets, timing differences and statutory adjustments, and are not cash and therefore not available to support expenditure, while the usable reserves are cash reserves which are available to support delivery of services in future years. Looking at an overview of the outturn position, it notes there the general fund balance has increased to £36.089 million. The vast majority of this, 29.672, has been previously earmarked by members to support various initiatives. The unallocated portion is 6.417 million. This compares to the council's minimum recommended level of 4 million and is an increase of 2.023 million over that reported at 31st March 2025. The increase in this has been largely as a result of the earmarked reserve written back. Council had previously agreed to earmark £1.245 million to support the revenue budget within 25-26, and following the reported performance of services, this was not required and has been written back to the general reserve for reallocation. In addition, the accounts note additional income in respect of council tax. This has arisen from a number of areas, is primarily related to a reassessment of the requirement for bad debt provision within the council tax account as at the end of the financial year, and that resulted in additional income being recognised within the accounts and added to the unearmarked balance. The excess in relation to the unearmarked balance will be considered as part of the budget process. Some of it is non-recurring in nature, and obviously it's not advisable to use non-recurring funds to support recurring expenditure, but a certain proportion of it, particularly in relation to council tax income, will be recurring and will be brought forward to be considered by members as part of the budget setting process for 27, 28 and 28, 29. The revenue outturn against budget as reported in accounts is highlighted there, summarised as you can see. So mainly to do with pay inflation contingencies and non-pay contingencies which were not utilised during the year, and that was previously reported to members back in February of this year, and that has, a significant proportion of that has been earmarked to support loan charges going forward. There was service underspends of 807,000 during the year, and that was primarily to do with turnover savings, offset by reduced income and some savings in the development of the ASN transport service, which reduced costs during the year. And as noted there, the use of reserves of 1.245 million was not required and has been returned to the general fund balance. The position on reserves, as previously noted, we have general fund balance of £36 million, plus additional other reserves which are limited in their use. So we have £4.5 million within the insurance fund. This is a balance that is used to address uninsured losses of the council and includes contributions for the Scottish Child Abuse Redress Scheme. The balance within this fund is reviewed on a triennial basis, and the next review is June 2028. The Renewals and Repairs Fund is held to support the maintenance of the council's assets and is mainly drawn down to support the capital programme over future years. The Capital Fund is currently holding just under £1.8 million. This can only be used by statute. It can only be used to fund capital expenditure or to support the repayment of borrowing. And then finally, you've got capital receipts unapplied, £9.8 million. This is primarily to do with funding for Greenock Central, the Levelling Up Fund, which has been received in advance of expenditure and is held as a ring-fenced reserve on the balance sheet. A quick summary of the capital programme spend. So the annual accounts have recognised expenditure of £31.8 million on a range of programmes highlighted there, and that is an increase from a spend of £23 million in the previous year. The main projects delivered during the year include £7.5 million on the new LD facility for the Health and Social Care Partnership, £3.3 million on City Deal, £3.1 million initial spend on the Levelling Up Fund, and then a range of spend in support of our asset management plans across regeneration, roads, schools, early years, etc. Income to the capital programme was £23 million for the year, with the balance being made up from the use of reserves and a proportion of prudential borrowing. There was slippage in the year of only 1.2%, which is quite a good outturn, or £331,000, and this was offset by the advancement of £398,000, or 1.98%. Looking at the council balance sheet, our assets and liabilities have moved, as you can see there. So the increase in property, equipment, etc. of £11 million reflects the revaluation and indexation exercise carried out on an annual basis, but also the level of capital spend recognised by the council during the year. There's been a net increase on the level of banking investments, and that's related to the aforementioned LUF funds, which were received in advance, and a planned increase in the liquid holdings of the council in order to protect us against cash flow fluctuations. There have been movements on borrowing, an increase in borrowing of £5.9 million, and that's been to support the capital investment programme, but also to refinance other borrowing vehicles which were coming to close. Timing issues have resulted in increases in debtors and creditors, while the repayments against the PPP contract has decreased the finance lease liabilities over the piece. And then there's been some small reductions in other assets and liabilities of £667,000. So a total movement or a total net increase on assets of £20.997 million over the year. The pension position is reported within the annual accounts, and this is reported an increase in pension surplus of £46.3 million for the year. But this is subject to a cap for reporting purposes, and we have actually reported a deficit of £28 million, being the unfunded element as per the asset ceiling calculation advised by the scheme's actuaries. The movement in the surplus is mainly due to a gain in fund assets, as well as an increase in the discount rate, resulting in a lower value of future employee liabilities. And this has been partly offset by an increase in the pension rate, which increases their future obligations. Common Good Fund has reported a deficit for the year of £43,000, but this included the spend on the Port Glasgow 250 event. Outgoings on various other community events and property repairs have been offset by income from rents, and the usable reserves are now reported at £128,000, which is £28,000 above the £100,000 minimum level recommended. Within the group accounts, the council is required to report on any subsidiaries, associates or joint ventures. So subsidiaries are entities where it is deemed that the council has control, and that includes Common Good, Applied Leisure and the trust funds. The associates are those entities where we have a significant level of influence, and that is mainly the joint boards, being the RVJB, SPT and concessionary travel element of the SPT, and Riverside in Reply. We also have two joint ventures noted there, which is the IJB and Intreen, and they are defined due to the contractual arrangements. The recognition of our share of the assets and liabilities of these group entities reported an underspend of £764,000 for the year and a net increase of £3.7 million within our earmarked reserves. The challenges and risks identified reflect those which were previously reported to Council as part of the finance strategy. So over the 2-year period, 26-27 to 27-28, the revenue budget was set, but there is a 3-year budget gap for the period from 2027 to 2030, currently estimated at £11.5 million. Capital allocations, as previously reported, there's been an annual reduction in allocations from the Scottish Government, and the actual expenditure level currently exceeds capital grant by approximately £3 million, requiring us to have greater reliance on borrowing or use of reserves to meet our capital investment plans. The challenge of funding the net zero agenda has been highlighted, and plans are being developed to address this. Cash flow and financing costs of some external funding projects, primarily the City deal, have been highlighted, with the increased borrowing costs due to the cash flow variances requiring an injection of £1.9 million over the next few years. The timetable for the public inspection, so the advert was placed on the Council's website as required on the 17th of June. Audit Committee obviously meets today to approve these accounts for submission. We then enter a public inspection period for the next 3 weeks. We do not anticipate any specific public inspections. Certainly no one has raised any issues at this point. Over the period between July and September, the accounts will be subject to independent audit by our external auditors, KPMG, and the current audit plan includes a reporting by 30th of September, with full council currently scheduled for 24th of September to consider the external auditor's report. That's the ISA 260 and the member's annual report. This will hopefully see a return to pre-COVID deadlines or compliant with pre-COVID deadline of 30th of September for completion of the audit process. And finally, we're open to any questions. You'll see there that the link is Matt Thompson, who would normally be the glamorous assistant presenting this today, but unfortunately is elsewhere. So if members have any questions today, I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my abilities, but we may have to defer to Matt if it's too technical.
Okay, well, up to members. Councillor Clopperty.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, David, I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, you know, if you're looking at it, I'm trying to join question regarding the pensions. Right?
Yes.
So if I'm looking at it and I'm saying the pension surplus is increased to £362 million, I think that's a great thing. And then the next couple of lines it says element with a deficit and unfunded. What can you maybe explain what the unfunded, that's my first question, what the unfunded element is and why it would look as if the pensions do so well, but there's that 28 million unfunded. Could you maybe just clarify that? What's it actually mean?
Through you, convener. Yes, so the pension surplus is our notional share of
Yes.
Strathclyde Pension Fund as has been defined by the actuaries.
Yeah.
But that's an unrealisable asset. We can't have access to that. So there is for reporting purposes, there is an asset ceiling placed in that. So while we report that we have a pension surplus of that level, we then take it back out of our balance sheet and we don't recognise that as being an asset of the council because we have no access to it. Within the returns that we get from the actuary are some elements of the liabilities and assets, or our share of liabilities of assets, which are unfunded in nature, and that they have been based on actions that the council has taken previously rather than returns of the pension fund itself. And what it recognises there is that there is a £28 million deficit, which if the scheme were to close tomorrow with zero assets or liabilities, the council would be liable for that £28 million because they result from actions that the council had previously taken.
David, would you mind stop sharing your screen so that we can see who's asking questions here?
Apologies.
It's okay. Thank you.
So it's for yourself, Convener. So with that, obviously the actuaries value every 3 years, right? So we know that. So they'll value the pension scheme every 3 years. But does that actually mean that they'll take into consideration what, because we're all just talking about budgets and pensions always come part of the budget and how much council's paying for pensions. Will the actuaries, or can we decide, we can't decide the whole, but there was things like contribution holidays that employees used to take, or the actuaries would decide the funding level. Is there a movement when you've got something so well funded that the actuaries will recommend that the employers reduce their contributions and so therefore help us when we're talking about savings?
Thanks again through you, Convener. In a nutshell, yes, that's essentially the point. So what the report is highlighting is that our share of Strathclyde Pension Fund is £362 million. Every other member authority within Strathclyde Pension Fund has a similar pension surplus. So you're correct, it is subject to a triennial review, and the triennial review for the pension fund is carried out this year. It's due for final reporting some point during 2026. I don't have an exact date. We would anticipate that there will be a review of employers' contributions taken at that point. What those employers' contributions may be adjusted to, I couldn't possibly speculate on, and that'd be a matter for, it's managed by Glasgow City Council, so Glasgow City Council will bring forward recommendations which will then be considered both nationally and locally in terms of the employer's contribution, and then that will obviously information be brought back to Council as hopefully part of the deliberations for future year revenue budgets.
Thank you. David, for yourself, Chair, I'll let you come in first.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Maguire, would you like to come in?
Yeah, it's not so much as a question. I did enjoy reading through it. There's a lot of helpful information in this report. It was just I raised this last year, but just on big page 28 and big page 29, you've got Jim and myself down as deputy leader. So it's just a wee typo that needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. Not trying to promote you here, but yeah, I raised it last year as well, just because it's obviously just copy paste across from previous years. It doesn't change anything to the actual factual soundness of the report. It's just a typo.
No, that's fine, Natasha. I remember well when I used to be with Councillor McCabe. I'm just glad that you're taking over that mantle now.
Not at all.
Okay, right, thank you. Any further questions from members? Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, thank you. I've been in this committee for a long, long time, and our chief financial officer retired. We had a period where Matt, Angela and the team ran things, and now you come in, David, and again, I see a quite excellent report with a lot of good news in it. I particularly like the on page 10 about children's services, how the cost of secondary school pupils per pupil per year has decreased and the preschool has decreased. I think management needs to be complimented for that. But my main question is about big page 74 and our long-term borrowings of 159 million. Do you think that is a sort of maximum figure for us, or do we have capacity to go further there, David?
Through you, Convener. So the 159 million is within the limits set within the Treasury Management and Investment Strategies agreed by Council. So the limits in that are revised each year, depending on the capital programme approved by Council. So obviously, if the Council has significant capital investment ambitions, those levels would have to be increased. And borrowing increase, but ultimately you're within an envelope. You can't borrow more than the assets are actually going to be worth. So that where there is capacity in there to increase borrowing, the problem is that we then have to support that borrowing with repayments from the revenue fund. So it's well, if the council could set a more ambitious capital investment plan, it's how would it finance that? Because ultimately the interest payments, which are quite high at the moment, in the post Gulf War conflict period, they become quite punitive. So we're limited both by the availability of projects and funds to support those projects, but also their ability to repay the borrowing costs that arise from that borrowing.
Thank you, David, but there still is a wee bit of slack there.
The term slack is maybe not one I would use. We have headroom within the overall capital financing requirement, within the limits set by the strategies, but we should never see that as being a target. We should see that as being a healthy cushion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no further questions.
Sorry, Chair, I've got another couple of questions.
Yeah, okay.
By the way, you say, but they are very important papers and they should have some scrutiny on it. I suppose my first question is, I always have up there about Northern Clyde goals. We set aside money at stock transfer for, I think it was insurance claims or other claims. It used to, in my back of my mind, it's a couple of £1 million. I'm not sure exactly how much. It's just to say, one, is that still there? Where does it if it is, where does it show up in the accounts? And two, when can we get our hands on it? If it is.
Again, through you, Convener, yes, I can confirm it is still there. So there is money that is held for the Repairs and Renewals Fund within the usable reserves. So the total there that's listed is £3.3 million. I don't have the exact figure that's held in relation to the stock transfer, but it's in the region of £1.7–1.8 million. I can confirm the exact figure for members after the meeting. I would need to defer to colleagues and check what the actual agreement was in relation to the stock transfer. There is a requirement for us to hold funds in case of any future abnormal costs or unexpected redevelopment costs in relation to the stock that was transferred. But I say I would need to review the legal agreement to see at what point our liability can be either reduced or removed.
Don't worry, the reason I'm smiling is probably the same answer Alan Puckerin's given me in the last 15 years.
Yeah. Yep.
So you Convener, council property officers are aware of the sum that's sitting there, and I can assure members or reassure members that we're looking at appropriate uses for that sum to benefit the people within the country.
Thank you. And my last question is really quite simple one. And in the papers, one of the things that we're worried about open bag, sorry, I can't find the exact page, but I'm sure you know, was it was a council tax law case. And the question was, is it just an individual or is it a collective case against the council? Sorry.
Thank you. I believe it's within the contingent liabilities of the council that you're referring to, councillor. So there is it says there are ongoing legal actions. So it is one particular case which has been ongoing for more than a year now and is currently not concluded. So obviously we need to recognise that there could be additional costs depending on how that is disposed of.
No, thank you, Dave. And that's
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. So if there's no further questions, are members happy to accept the recommendations?
Agree.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, Chair.
Actually, thank you,
So-
Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.